Alright, welcome to another issue of Pro Tips. This one, we're in my kitchen instead of the garage because we're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about nutrition a little bit here. We're going to give you 7 tips to stay lean, to lose weight, for general health, athletic performance. It's not all about weight loss. It's not about any of that. But some things that have guided me through the last few years that I've learned from working with the great nutritionist, Dr. Phil Goglia, as well as my teammates, and just what I've figured out. And what's kind of, obviously all this stuff is individual, so this is what's worked for me. So we'll start there. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just a person who has figured out pretty well how to fuel myself and how to walk around at 5% body fat-ish and not get sick and dodge eating disorders, which is something that we all have to pay attention to in cycling or any sport. Number one of 7 is water. Drink water all the time. They say 2 liters a day. That depends, obviously, like if you're out there sweating, you need more. But pour that out. Have the bottles, just a few separate bottles in your fridge, ready to go. And when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do, you just slam a bottle of water. That'll if you're hungry, instead of eating a huge breakfast, that might satisfy your belly a little bit. But it just gets you on that track to stay hydrated throughout the day. You will have to pee all the time. If you drink as much water as you should, you're basically always either drinking or peeing, sometimes both at the same time. And all old men and athletes have that in common. I swear all of my teammates, no one sleeps through the night without having to get up and pee, and that's kind of just part of it. And that's what we do. So that's number 1, was water. Number 2, kind of in the same vein, make your diet, if you are trying to lose weight, or if you're trying to sort of force a change of habits, instead of, yes, you have to restrict certain things, maybe you're trying to reduce sugar or something else, but don't make it about what you can't eat. Don't say, my diet today is I can't have this, that, and that. Make it about what you have to eat. So, for example, I have to slam this much water during the day. I have to, instead of I can't eat any cookies today, I'm going to say I must consume an entire bag of kale within this day. Most days I do have one of those big bags of kale from the store, or one big bunch, and I'll spread that over my meals. And you find if you make it if you force certain healthy things down, basically vegetables and clean foods, you'll find, and you have it in the right amounts, you'll find that you aren't as hungry for the stuff that you might have craved in the past. So you fill up on salad, essentially, is always a good move. You can't have too many vegetables at any meal. So that's kind of my thing. Make sure I force myself every day to have this many greens, this many carrots, that kind of deal. Number 3, if you're losing weight, patience. If you see I do recommend looking at the scale every day, as it's a data point. It's important, and as long as you don't let it get in your head, it's valuable. If you're getting on the scale every morning and expecting the number to be less, then it's a problem. And frankly, the number, your weight loss shouldn't be noticeable day to day. If it's noticeable day to day, you're doing it wrong. You're going too fast. Your body you'll pay penalties for it in performance, and it'll be harder to sustain. The true gains are gradual, and that's the ones that last. Number 4, learn your glycemic index. So better off Google that. I'll put a link in the description to something. But basically, different carbs kind of affect your body in a different way as far as when they turn into sugar and how they're processed in your gut. And you kind of need a mix of those. You kind of want to have, before a ride, you want to have some low glycemic and some high glycemic. So if it's over 55, that's high glycemic, so that's like your sugars and potatoes. Lower glycemic is probably like your pastas, depending on what kind. But you want to make sure you have a mix, and you're not focused on, if all you have is high glycemic, you're gonna burn it up fast, and it's not going to sustain. So you want a good balance of the glycemic index. And then after your workout, and we'll get that into that in a different video, then it's kind of the high glycemic, so it absorbs fast. That's a good time for that. In the glycemic category, yeah, check out the glycogen window. So that's number 5. Know your glycogen window. Don't miss your glycogen window. What that means is when you work out, you're depleting the glycogen from your muscles. You're depleting the energy that's sitting in your muscles. And when you stop working out, when you're finished with your ride, your run, whatever, that's the time that your body, for a brief period, they say like 30 minutes to an hour after your workout, your body is really ready to reabsorb that fast. And it takes longer after that, but the glycemic window, the glycogen window is an important time. So when you finish your ride, basically slam a protein drink with some carbs in it, make your smoothie. I've got the Muscle Monster, like even the ready-made stuff that you can just grab and go. Those are a very good, convenient solution. A lot of times I'll slam that after my ride and then take a shower and cook the meal. So educate yourself on the glycogen window and make sure you don't miss that. Number 6, if you again, if you're trying to maintain weight, lose weight, look to your carbs. Look in the carbs. You want to, at all times you should be slamming the vegetables and the healthy stuff. The place to kind of make that adjustment if you're trying to lose or gain and have the caloric restriction would be in the carbs. So for basically, if you eat the same thing every day, then that's what you mess with. It's like for a 6-hour ride, you have this much oatmeal. For a 2-hour ride, you have this much oatmeal. And then everything else, if you do eggs, if you whatever, bacon, all that would stay the same. But the carbs are the place that you can kind of manipulate it pretty well, and it's easy to measure how much you're kind of reducing, but it won't really affect if you're used to having a big salad, then with a rice on the side, removing that rice for a couple days or having less rice, that's where you play with it. You don't reduce your overall meal, but like the focusing on the carbs is the way to go. And kind of also in that, I'll get into what we do for dinner. The big bowl of health will be its separate video. I'll explain how I make my big bowls of health, which is a million different ways. But the last tip, number 7, is have some fat before bed. This has always worked for me. Before bed, have a little fat, have a little sugar, however that works for you. You don't have to have, don't have a whole pint of ice cream, but the cookies, it works for that. My one nutritionist I worked with would recommend applesauce with some almond butter in it. So you kind of got your sweet and you've got your salt and your fat. But that will sort of sustain you through the night, keep your metabolism going, and you won't wake up hungry in the middle of the night. You won't wake up and have to have a huge breakfast. So those are your 7. Those are kind of my favorite tips for people that are just trying to improve in general and don't know where to start. Start there. Enjoy, good luck, and more to come on these. We'll do an on the bike one next and a big bowl of health sometime later.